sé que pasará, pronto pasará, y estaré a salvo, y no sentiré esta soledad. No, 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 que me está matando. Y como dice, quiero escuchar bien fuerte. Fuerte el aplauso, Lucas con la música y trompeta. ¡Fuerte aplauso! Muchísimas gracias, gente linda. Son muy amables. Muchas gracias. Gracias. Perdona si te hago llorar, perdona si te hago sufrir, pero es que no está en mis manos, pero es que no está en mis manos. Me enamora, me enamoró. Me enamoré. Perdona si te causo dolor. Bye bye. Pensalo un poco, compréndelo, como el árbol ya sin hojas, así está mi corazón. no vuelvas. No, no, ya no. Estoy aprendiendo a sanarme y a mejorar mi vida hoy. Porque te has ido ya hace tiempo. Ahora te vas y así lo entiendo. Porque te has ido ya hace tiempo. Ahora te vas y así lo entiendo. Hoy mis recuerdos no son por vos, tan solo quedan las secuelas de aquel amor. Pues ya no sufro, no, por lo que fue. Hoy aquí vivo en mi presente y así me quedaré. Porque te has ido ya hace tiempo. Ahora te vas y así lo entiendo. Porque te has ido ya hace tiempo. Ahora te vas y así lo entiendo. Bye bye, my lady, lady. Bye bye, bye bye.
A las 11 vamos a comenzar a ceremonia. Compra y ayuda a Nonza. En inglés, español, maya, criollo, lo que quiera decir. Garífona también. Como dijo Black Korea ayer, maya.
Good morning, everyone. We would ask everyone to kindly make their way under the tents. We're going to start the ecumenical service for Andy at this moment. So, everybody, just before we head on out to the cemetery, we ask everybody to come and listen to the Word of God before we leave this place, okay? So, let's give it 2 minutes so that everyone finds their way under the tent, and then we're going to be inviting Pastor Jaime Valle, who will be presenting the service for us. So family and friends, please don't stay out. Come and listen. This is more for you than it is for Andy.
Right, Chema.
All right. Pastor Jaime, time is yours. Just a minute? Okay.
Muy buenos días a todos. Testing, testing. Morning, everyone. Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to see all of you here once again. Thank you for coming out. This morning we just want to say a few words concerning our late Andy Gonzalez. Andy Luis Gonzalez, better known as Frijolito, Andy P, Andy Palacio, among many other names that you may have called him once, was born on the 1st of April of 2005. We know that as a child, he was full of energy and he was always willing to do anything that was adventurous was good enough for him. Despite the many challenges that no child should ever need to face, he found peace and happiness riding his bicycle. From very young, he was ready to serve, to help in any way that he could, and he always loved undertaking new adventures, teaching and also learning as he would go by. At the tender age of 11 years, he lost his mom. And at that moment, I believe that she was all that he really and truly needed to survive this cruel world. Despite believing that this universe or his universe crumbled at that time, he saw himself forced to grow up, to man up, and to face the world on his own. As you may all know, growing up, he found happiness and love or peace in riding a two-wheeled motorcycle or a bicycle, but he would prefer to have it on one only. So this morning, many of you here played an important role in his life, and I want you to remember him as the amazing kid he was. I imagine that you might have had ups and downs with him, but let us walk away today remembering that he was better because of you. And whatever happened or whatever went wrong down the road, it's a calling for us to open our eyes and to realize that the person that is sitting right next to you might be in need of you. And you might not even know it, but you have to open your eyes and make sure that not even the slightest disagreement keeps you away from each other. So this morning, with that said, we remember who in life was our cousin, our friend, a brother, our son to many, and an amazing uncle, friend, and cyclist. With that said, thank you very much.
Test 1 2 testing. Yeah, all right. I hope everyone can hear me out this morning. Thank you. And to the Olivas, Rodriguez, Alfaro, and Hidalgo family, and all friends, God's peace truly be with you this day. Today, we do one of the most difficult of all things to do. We gather to grieve the passing of Andy Luis Gonzalez. Much loved, respected, kind and caring, hard-working and decent young man. A wonderful person, a brother, an uncle, a friend, and we gather to commend him into God's grace. Grief is never an easy burden to bear, and never more so than when it comes to us in what we can only regard as an untimely fashion, as it came this time. It causes to arise within us many questions about ourselves and what we might or might have done to make things different. questions about the one we loved and just what we experienced in his journey that had become so dark, and questions about God and God's goodness. We come today in our grief, in our pain, in our anger, in our doubts, in our confusion, but today is also an opportunity to remind us about what the Word of God says and does not say regarding a tragic death. I only have time to briefly summarize this morning what I believe God would have you remember. Nowhere does the Bible teaches that this act is unforgivable. Christians experience depression, mental illness, and chemical imbalance in the brain that sometimes trigger a suicide. But God filters His grace through tragedies such as this. Even Jesus told His disciples that His soul was overwhelmed with sorrow even to the point of death. It's been said that when you're right, nobody remembers. And when you're wrong, nobody forgets. This was not the way we wanted to say goodbye to Andy. It really is a tragedy, but an even greater tragedy would be for anyone to dwell on one moment of weakness or confusion and neglect the rest of his life as a loving and wonderful brother, uncle, teacher, co-worker, friend, and even partner in crime. Now, God does not judge any of us on our final acts, whether good or bad, but on the totality of our life and heart. So we should avoid asking questions that will have no answers till we get to heaven. When our faith falters, we cry out with Mary and Martha, the sister of Lazarus, who said to Jesus in today's, in the reading of Gospel of Luke, where it says, "Lord, if," and there's probably not a person here who hasn't thought the same thing this past week. Lord, if only I had acted differently. If I could have only been there. If only I would have been more observant. But if is a word that looks back on a past that cannot be changed. If raises a host of questions that nobody can answer right now but God. Even if we did know the answers, our pain would only be any less, nor our sorrows any lighter. If looks backward, but faith looks forward. But we need today, or what we need today is faith. To believe in God's grace and control. Faith that Paul talks about in his letter to the Romans is still true. And that is in everything, even tragic things. God works for the good of those who love Him and who have been called according to His purpose. Now, this morning, even while we cannot help but be troubled with the way Andy chose to end his life, we must look beyond the end to see the real picture and legacy he left behind. As our dearest sister Olivas mentioned, he was a beautiful person. Loved and enjoyed life. He was committed to whatever he put his mind to do. Encouraged hope and prosperity to life in his whatever he did. And so we can claim the same truth for Andy that we preach and teach for all. The blood of Christ will make it possible for him to pass over from death to life. Let me repeat it again for you. The grace of God and the blood of Christ will make it possible for him to pass over from death to life. Broken hearts are not mended with easy answers, but with truthful ones. With the death of Andy, we are in a time of mourning. The pain is real. It cannot be denied. It cannot be minimized. It cannot be ignored. It must be lived through. Remember, it must be lived through. It is the reality that Andy is gone. But it is also the reality that Andy will now live in us. There can be joy in the midst of mourning. We know that our sorrow must be tempered with faith that Andy is in God's everlasting care. For everything there is a season and a time for every matter under heaven in God's time. The key to living is to realize that there is a rhythm of life. There is a time for one thing and a time for another. Though it is sad and we will miss Andy, we sense this is not the end of the story, because grieving is a matter of life more than of death. So if the seasons teach us anything, it is that death does not have the last word. Death is not the end. Beyond our veil of tears, there is another life, another world. The grave is not our goal. To be with Christ is. So we now go out still in deep sorrow over the loss of our friend Andy, and yet we also go out in hope, in the hope that God's healing will come gently in our lives, or your lives. We go out in the hope that Andy will continue to live in our lives, that time will not dim his influence, nor our memories grow faint in remembering his example in our of true humanity. So we go out in gratitude that we have been privileged to have our lives touched, even if for a brief moment, by Andy in our lives. So it is in this hope and promise that we find our greatest comfort and perfect peace, peace in the midst of our deepest pain, peace in the midst of our grief. Jesus brings peace, that it is a new security, that we will be reunited with all our loved ones to live in glory of new creation, where death shall be no more. This is the promise of God. So with everything that we have in our minds, with everything that we have as sadness, as grief, we can only say that God knows best. And if God chose this to be the way, because of our actions, we must say, God, you know what is best for our lives. And now, like I mentioned, he was a wonderful person, and that doesn't mean that his memory should be lost. He lives in our hearts. He will continually live in our lives, because he came, and he came to stay. He came to stay in each and every one of your lives. And look at him as that bright, always smiling, making jokes person. Because if anything, I know he wouldn't want you to be sad and thinking of maybe you could have done things better. Maybe you could have been a better person, better friend. But no, don't think about it that way. Think about it that now this could be an example for you. And if you know of someone else who also is in this same situation, ask them personally, are you planning to commit suicide? And don't try to judge them. Don't try to rule their lives. Just be there for them. Listen to that. Just be there for them. Don't try to control them, because that's the least that they want. Maybe at home they are controlled. Everywhere they are controlled. And sometimes they just want a way out of being controlled. Do you like being controlled? No, you don't. So the only thing that these people are asking you is to hear them out. So this has reached home for us. This has come close to our hearts. So with this example, now we can say, I will not let someone else do these same things. How many of us today are committed to say, if there is someone in this situation, I will try to help? Anyone? I will try to help. I will try to help. This is all that our dearest friend Andy would like. Help someone out. And as you know, I try to see the story of Andy, and I know that he suffered a lot. And there is nothing worse than losing the person you love. Isn't that right? And Mommy, he loved so much, as many of you did. And that broke him. That destroyed him. And maybe for us, it's the same thing that is happening today. the loss of our friend broke you, it's destroying you, and sometimes you just can't say, I can't handle it any longer. But that's all right, because God says that He will give you that joy and that peace that you need in your lives. Now, it's not easy, because it's never easy. But time will help you have that healing process. And now don't dwell on the sadness, because if you dwell in the sadness, then it might be a problem for you. And if there is someone here in this congregation that is hearing me out, and they are thinking the same thing, I must say, there are people who still love you. They still care for you. Reach out to them. Tell them you need help. Tell them you need help, and they will help you. For the family here, aren't you willing to help? Yes, you are willing to help. Tell them you are willing to help. Friends, I know that you are willing to help. But sometimes you might say, okay, I didn't think. That's all right. Don't blame yourself. But from today onwards, try to be a help for whosoever needs it. May God bless you all, and remember that whatever we do, don't give words of hate, but give love. Don't try to bring down someone, but try to bring them up. Because your words have power. And it is either a power to edify or to destroy. What will be your words from today onwards? To edify or to destroy? And remember that God is calling each and every one of us to come to Him. Come to Him because He's calling you to make the right decisions in your life. So, this is the words that I've got to say, and I would like you to play his favorite song as we continue doing the and then we will do a final prayer, and then we will go to the gravesite. So we'll listen to his favorite song, and while this song is played, just remember him as that happy person. Let that be the last picture that you have in your mind.
Y solo se ha quedado. Eso ya pasó, se han ido de aquí. Momentos dorados. Solo me encuentro por mi soledad. Y mi corazón gritando. Y como dice vivo. sentiré esta soledad. No, 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 que me está matando. Y como dice, quiero escuchar bien fuerte. Saludos con la música completa. Muchísimas gracias, gente linda. Son muy amables. Muchas gracias. Gracias.
Alright, this is an opportunity for the family members if they want to say something before we leave. Any family member who wants to say something to all of those who came out, or or any friends that want to say something. I know that last night some did, and well, today as usual, we once again ask if anyone wants to say something, you can come forward to do so.
¿No hay nadie más que quiere venir a decir algo antes que despidamos de Andy, antes que lo llevemos al carro? Aquí estamos para escuchar la última palabra, que estamos aquí con él ahorita. Porque estar allá en el cementerio, pues va a estar el sol caliente y no creo que... So, familia Rodríguez, ¿algo para decir? Olivas, the last words. My expression, I don't expression myself last night, so it's time for you guys to come and say something.
Bueno, de parte de la familia Rodríguez, les doy gracias a todos por estar aquí, dando el apoyo a todos mis sobrinos, la familia González. No, para nosotros, las tías, no es fácil, porque no pudimos hacer lo que le prometimos a mi hermana, cuidar a mi sobrino. Pero ahora, con los sobrinos que me han quedado, les prometo estar más pendiente de ustedes. Ya saben, aquí tienen una tía con quien contar.
Any friends out there that want to say the last word? You guys will come up here and say the last word for guys.
Buenos días a todos. Yo soy su tía. Cuando su madre estaba grave, ella pidió que cuidara de su hijo. Yo eso quise hacer. Pero lo quitaron de mí. Lo quitaron de mí y ahora está donde está. Pero sé que está en un mejor lugar. Así es que yo les pido que por favor madres que tienen a sus hijos, no dejen solo a sus hijos, ámenlos. ¿Por qué? Porque es lo más precioso que Dios nos ha dado, nuestros hijos. No permitan que nadie se los lastime. Traten la manera de corregirlos en el buen camino para que ellos no sean lastimados como él. Ese niño sufrió desde pequeñito. Cuando su madre fue enterrada ese día, mi mamá lo tomó. Y él de chiquito decía que nadie lo quería. Que nadie lo quería, se iba a esconder en lo oscuro. Y yo le decía a él, no, ven, yo te quiero, yo te quiero. Me lo quitaron y ahora me lo quitaron del todo. Solo voy a recordar sus sonrisas. Recuerdo cuando lo veía porque ¿quién estuvo para ahí? Él fue mi hijo, Sergio. Él estuvo para ahí hasta el último momento. Pero por favor, yo les pido una vez más, madres, por favor, guíen a sus hijos en el buen camino, no permitan. Porque a pesar de nosotros, yo tengo 6 hijos y he luchado, he tratado para corregirlos en el buen camino. No importa si usted los corrigió desde chiquito, de 0 a 6. Y de ahí si se van, ellos volverán un día. Ellos volverán un día donde se les mostró el buen camino. Así que por favor, madres, cuiden de sus hijos. Los hijos son los tesoros más bellos que Dios nos ha dado. Gracias.
Gracias, amarte, disfruto acariciarte con el cariño. Es escalofriante verte de frente, hacerte sonreír.
Buenos días. Quiero agradecerle a todos por estar presentes aquí. Y quiero decirle gracias a mi tía por apoyarlos y a todas las familias. Quiero que seamos fuertes y que sigamos adelante. Solo que recordemos los buenos momentos que teníamos con Andy y que tengan un buen día.
Claro que sí, gracias. Pues lo que ustedes quieren venir a ver antes que se mueva el cuerpo, creo que el sol va a estar muy caliente allá afuera y no sé cuánto tiempo vamos a estar allá afuera. Si quieren verlo por última vez, vengan aquí, pasen adelante. Amigos o amigas, si quieren decir algo más, están disponibles, el micrófono está abierto.
Muy buenos días a todos. Le damos gracias a Dios porque los ha tenido aquí a cada uno con vida y todo. Dándole porque sabemos que cada uno, todos tenemos que pagar por ese proceso. Todos vamos a pasar ahí. Una cosa debemos de saber, que nosotros como familia que somos tenemos que soportar a unos a otros. No sabemos que esta clase de cosas que nosotros miramos, Dios no lo acepta, pero lo va a aceptar por 2 cosas. Porque si nosotros no los arrepentimos a Dios en este momento antes de hacer esas cosas, nosotros estamos mal. 1, 2. Yo le doy gracias a todos que están reunidos, familia y todo. Yo le doy gracias a mi madre que los crió en un consejo de que nosotros nunca debemos de hacer estas cosas. Como madres y padres, nosotros tenemos que educar a nuestros hijos desde pequeños, llevarlos hasta grandes, cuando ya tengan su edad y consigan a su esposa o tengan todo. Siempre, aunque tengan su esposa, nosotros tenemos que aconsejarlos. ¿Cuál es cómo nosotros vivimos como padres a cada hijo que tenemos? Sea grande o sea chiquito. Hay hijos que son rebeldes, pero esos hijos rebeldes lo que tenemos que hacer es hablarles un poco con amor, porque ellos necesitan el amor de los padres, el amor que necesitan, no despreciarlos, porque no es lo bueno despreciar a los hijos. Jamás, porque los hijos son bendición de Dios y Dios nos dio a cada uno, porque nosotros se lo pedimos a Él. Desde cuando nosotros los unimos a una pareja, es porque vamos a tener hijos, y esos hijos van a ser educados desde pequeños, creciendo conforme nosotros los enseñaron, nuestras enseñanzas, a nosotros como hijos que somos de mi madre. Aquí está mi madre, nos enseñaron un camino correcto, no el camino que debemos de dejar. Hacer estas cosas no es bueno. Pero sí, yo aconsejo a toda madre o padre que aconseje a sus hijos que esto sea un ejemplo para cada uno. Gracias.
Me complace amarte, disfruto acariciarte, tenerte a mí. Es escalofriante verte de frente, sonreír.
Sí, creo que vamos a estar levantando el cuerpo ahorita para llevarlo al carro. Sí, como estaba diciendo, creo que Vamos a estar levantando el cuerpo ahorita para llevarlo al carro, si nos dan permiso ahí. Entonces van a estar ahí los amigos. No sé quién va a estar recogiendo el cuerpo. Quiero que nos den una mano aquí. Y otra cosa, atrás del carro que van a estar poniendo el cuerpo va a ir la familia González, después los Rodríguez y los que siguen, amigos.
Se marchitó y solo se ha quedado. Eso ya pasó, se han ido de aquí. Momentos dorados, solo me encuentro por mi soledad. Gritando, y como dice el vivo, que no quiero estar así. Quiero poder verte bien y volver a ser feliz. Todo el mundo bailando, bailando, vivo. Todo está hecho en mi corazón, que hoy está quedado. Fue por el amor que se fue. Y sí, y solo me ha dejado. Sé que pasará, pronto pasará, y estaré a salvo. Y no sentiré esta soledad.
No, a middle. Straight like that. I need break the front there. say take a try out.